Too much sunlight. Who'd have thunk it, eh? Well, okay, we're here again. I'll be honest, guys, the feedback on these rig time videos has been absolutely overwhelming. I thank you all so much. Yeah, the amount of people saying, can you do this, can you do that? Now, I'm not an experienced fisherman, and I try and cover rigs that I use regularly. But if you've got a particular rig that you'd like me to look up and show on video, I'll certainly give it a go. Not saying I won't butcher it, but I'll give it a go. So today we're looking at this, and I know this is just a nondescript baggie. It's a 2-hook clip down rig. We're going to keep it basic, as is the trend with these videos. So come with me after the credits and let's have a look at it. Right, okay, so I've already shown you, or I have now on screen, a picture of all the components I'm using in this rig. I show in this rig, or I show in this photo only, I think 4 beads. You actually need 5. So let's get to work on this rig. I'm doing a 2-hook clip down today, and I'm aiming for an overall rig length of about 4 foot. So I'll start, as I always do, with a couple of inches over that measurement. So I've just gone slightly over by a few inches, just to sort of help compensate for the knots. I tie my rigs, as I have said in several videos, and it's this rig that sort of made me train myself to do it. I trained myself to tie a rig from the rod, the main line attachment point backwards. So as always, I start mine with a power swivel. This is a £100 Gemini power swivel, going on with a 4 or 5 turn. I've just lost one. Uni knot. I'm looking, I have been asked, and people have asked me to do it. I do have some high vis paracord somewhere, I just can't find it. Once I find it, I will do, or attempt to do, a knot tying video. They're difficult, notoriously difficult to film. I'll give it a go. Cinch the uni knot down, nice and tight, and away we go. We're off to the races. Now, this is my 3rd or 4th attempt at tying this rig, so in actual fact I haven't got everything out that I need, because I tied 2, hence why I've got little baggies with them in. First one I got the order of operations wrong. The second one, I actually, the camera didn't record any audio, so that's fun. So crimps I don't have out, beads I don't have out, so that's why some of the colours on some of the equipment's going to change, because they went on this one. Right, let me get my bits and pieces out and I'll be right back with you. So on this rig, you will have seen in the photo, I'm using some Sakuma 506 Aberdeen match hooks in size 2.0. I was completely unaware of these hooks. I don't know if they're new, if they're just coming to market, but I was completely unaware they did an Aberdeen hook. Well happy they do these. Anyway, that's that bit out of the way. I just, you know, credit where it's due. People know I've always used Sakuma gear. I'm not shouting them out because they've sent me some stuff. I'm shouting them out because Sakuma, Trident and Gemini are my go-to brands. So, order operations. From the tip of the rod down, crimp. And then some beads. If I like, my OCD is a little, oh, I've got some oval loomy beads. I've got enough oval loomy beads. So crimp, bead. Now this one needs to be your small pulley or your small swivel. So small swivel, then another bead. Get my bits box here. Then your SRT rig spring, whatever you want to call them. I get these from Trident. 25 rig springs for a couple of quid. I find it very good value for money. So a spring. The spring only goes on the top hook, or what will be the top hook. You don't need one on the bottom hook. Then a bead. And I'm trying to keep the ranting down. And then a crimp. And then a bead. No, wrong bead. And a bead. Come on. There we go. Can't find it all. There's my next loomy bead. And I just need to find a breakaway swivel. I thought I had one to hand and I don't. Okay, breakaway swivels. You've got a normal round eye on a breakaway swivel, and then you've got this crooked ovalish eye and the leg or hook. For my instance, because we're tying it, essentially what is currently at the bottom, stopping everything falling off, is what's going to be the top of the rig, or the main line attachment point is the pulley that's at the bottom. So for me, and the way I tie it, you want to put it through the oval so that the hook is pointing, and little round eye is pointing upwards. All right, you see how it's crooked? It's supposed to be crooked. It's so that it sits cleaner when it's clipped down for casting. Then we want oval, or your choice of beads. Instead, these are going oval loomy beads because I've got 5 of them in front of me. And you will have noticed, as is on other setups, I'm only using 2 crimps, and I'm only putting crimps above the swivels. And that's for that adjustability again, which we'll get into when it comes time to set up the rig. Alright, so that's where we're at so far. These loomy beads are difficult to show up. We will go through it all again. We just put a thermalink on, make sure everything doesn't fall off. And that will be my choice of lead attachment point. You could use a bait clip, you could use a roto clip, you could use a Gemini Solo, you could use an imp. It's your choice. I'll tell you why I choose the roto when we come to it in a minute. For this rig in particular, I really like the roto, but there are things you can do with others. The Solo would give you the same benefit. The imp can give you the same benefit if you use it in a particular way. Once again, uni knot. I'm not going to bore you with the knots. Just tidy it up a little bit. Take off these 2 tag ends. So I started at just over 4 foot. Let me see, just out of interest, what I've got left. 4 foot. Okay, so just to run you through this. In fact, no, what I'll do, I'll not run you through it right now. It goes up there. I'll put my stop knots on. Now the stop knots, I don't know if this stuff's any good, I've never used it before. Normally the power gum I get is this one, the Drennan power gum. Couldn't get any of that, so I'm trying this Optima power gum. Let's see what it's like. I can't see it being very, very different. I'll try and show you my stop knot again. I was asked a few times if I can try and show the stop knot. It's just so difficult to show in situ. So for your top snood, you've got bead, swivel, bead, sorry, crimp, bead, swivel, bead, spring, bead. Underneath that is going to be a stop knot made out of power gum. Alright, so line and power gum in hand, create a loop. Alright, I don't believe it matters which way around the power gum goes to the line. So you create a loop, and all I'm doing is I'm holding that cross point in my other fingers. And basically just wrap your tag end around the main line and the loop. So going through the middle of the loop, over the top. It's really difficult to show. 3 to 4 times. I tend to say 4 times because in my experience 3 times doesn't give you a knot tight enough, and 5 times gives you a knot too tight. And that's not cinched right down, that's still kept loose for the time being. We want another one underneath the bottom of the bottom, what will be the bottom snood length. We've got a piece cut here. So I'll try and show it again, and then let's say a bit last time I'll show it. So creating a loop, going round and through the loop, so over the top of the main line, through the loop, 4 times is what I aim for. Okay, then pull it tight. Well, not tight, don't cinch it right down, because we've still got the main, we've still got the rig to assemble, as it were, because it's in its loose state at the moment. Snood length, I'm just using my usual, for this one, 20 pound amnesia. And I'm going to cut it at 2 foot. That should give me just under 2 foot once I've tied it. I'm not putting any embellishments on these. At this point, it's when you need to decide, are you going to put things like bait stops on? Are you going to put things like flotation beads on? Are you just going to put bling on to attach the flatties? The choice is yours. Normally, I put on the top one a couple of flotation beads, a sequin, and then behind all that I put a piece of rig tubing that I've gone through twice with the line. The reason I do that is to bring the top hook away from the main line a little bit and give it a bit more movement in the sea. Like I said, these are basic rigs. What I have got, this is not an actual one, but I've got some silicone squishy beads from Moonglow, and they're just solid silicone. They've not got a hole in them. So what you can do with them is on the day, you just push them up and over your hook, and they act as a nice rig, as a nice bait stop. And like I say, I'm using these 2/0 Sakuma match hooks, Sakuma Aberdeen match hooks. I've got to say, they are, I mean, I'm used to a Sakuma hooks being sharp. I'm not sure if this is just a fluke packet, but when I was tying the other two, I pricked myself God knows how many times. These are exceedingly sharp. And they're not even from the Pro line. They're from the standard match line. No special knots, once again, just my uni knot. 4 turns, especially on this smaller diameter line. If I was tying my, for example, my rig body, if I was tying it out of 80 pound line, I would give the uni knot 5 to 6 to maybe even 8 turns. The thicker the diameter line, the more turns really you need on the knot. So hook length meets rig body, just going through the swivel. Now I've seen some people tie the top hook length to be, for example in this instance, 3 foot, and the bottom hook length to be 1 foot. I keep them equal. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that in the comments down below on why people do that. I think it's to try and put 2 baits on the bottom, whereas I like to have one in the water and one on the bottom, which is the thing I like about this and the Wessex rig. The Wessex rig is what I plan to be filming next. Whether they'll come out in order or not is a completely different story. So that's one hook length. I'll blast through this next one and then I'll come back to you and I'll show you setting up the rig. I'm back with you and it's time to set this rig up. Alright, at the moment everything's still loosey-goosey and a bit of a mess. Normally what I'd do is I have a hook hung from my ceiling and I'll put a weight on the end because it's how the rig's going to be. I'll hang it from the ceiling and I'll set it that way, but I'll try and show it on camera. So I'll try and do it down here on the workbench with you. So what you want to do is put on your roto clip at least, or whatever you're going to be fixing your bottom hook down into, and clip your bottom hook down into it. Now the reason I like this rig with rotos is this rig can be a little bit fiddly, especially when your hands are cold and the weather's a bit, you know, especially as we're going into winter now, it can be a little bit fiddly. So I like to use a roto because it holds the hook completely captive. You know, you can bait that up, clip it down, and it ain't going anywhere. Then you can focus on the top hook. And so the amount of times I'd, you know, feel a hook brush against the side of my face, or, you know, rub the side of me in, and just think, oh, just got away with that when I'm hooking these up in windy conditions in the winter. I soon learnt that a roto clip, a Gemini solo clip, really are your friends with this rig. But a little known fact about the imp, if you use an imp, let me just quickly, I have mentioned this before in previous videos. If you've got that imp on a, say if I've got one with a clip on to enable me to sort of show it a bit better. Right, let me just clip an imp, a thermalink on this, just so that I can hold on to it a bit more clearly. So normally, obviously, your imp would be hung like that, and you'd clip your hook into it. Now, if you take your imp through the back and hook it, put your hook through and hook it that way, it holds your hook more captive. So it kind of works like a roto clip. Little hack for you there if you like your imps and you don't want to move away or buy another piece of kit, or, you know, as much as I completely stand behind Gary's reasons at Trident for going over to white, because it's recyclable, it's more eco-friendly, or this is made from recycled, it's more eco-friendly, it's more cost-effective. One of my main lures to Trident tackle originally was its price. I got to be brutally honest, I'm not a big fan of the white. I don't know what effect it's going to have on the fishing. I'm just not a big fan of the monochromatic white. I completely stand behind his reasons, and I will continue to use it for that reason. I'm just not a big fan of it. It's not as attractive to me anymore, but I will continue to use it. Anyway, I'm trying to keep these videos short. So the bottom hook's clipped down, and all I've done, all you then do is move your top knot so that the lines run parallel to one another. All right. And then you can cinch that one down if you want to, because you're kind of done with that, but you do want it to hold firm. All right, so bring that down as well. And what we'll do, like I said, this is normally hung, so it's a little bit difficult for me, is we'll crimp this. I've had a lot of people ask me about these. These are the breakaway crimping pliers. Bit pricey, bit of an extravagance, but really worth it. I've never over crimped a crimp since using these. And what you'll be able to see there is I'm putting a little gap. So I'm allowing a little bit of movement up and down on that swivel. It just helps prevent it binding up. And then the top hook comes down. This is where hanging it starts to become really handy. The top hook comes down into the arm on the cascade swivel. All right, and then what we need to do, as we did with the Paternoster rig, is we need that to move that stop knot up so that there's just a bit of tension in that spring. All right, so I just need to move it up a couple of millimeters more. Actually probably closer to 15 mil. Tighten down that stop knot and just check it then. All right, so once again set it as if we were setting it on the beach. So put it in that leg on the cascade swivel. You can see now there's a little bit of tension when that line gets pulled tight. There's a little bit of tension holding that hook in the cascade swivel for your cast. Alright, so that little bit of tension will help prevent it from popping out in the cast. You will get the occasional one, but what will happen then, once that does release at the sea, and the reason why I put the spring on this, there's the same reason I put the spring on the Paternoster rig, is when it releases, which I can't really show at the moment, I just don't have the space. Ow! That's like, ow! An example of how sharp these hooks are. When it releases, the spring, I don't know if that'll have shown up, but the spring helps to fire the hook away from the main line, aiding in that separation. And I mean, I tie this rig It's an all-purpose rig for me, depending on what baits I'm going to use, but it is an all-purpose rig for me. Now before we're done, we just want to crimp that top crimp, once again allowing those beads and swivel a millimetre or so of movement. Just helps stop them binding. Alright, and that's the rig set up. It just needs tidying up, just needs the tag ends taking off the power gum and the power gum not cinching in. But that's the rig tied up, and you can embellish on that however you damn well please. It is pretty much just an advanced 2-hook flapper. You could add a third hook, you could shorten your snoods and add a third hook, you could lengthen your rig body and add 2 hooks if you really wanted to. But as I say, I'm by no means a massively experienced fisherman, and these are my basic go-to rigs. As we're going into whiting season, which is why I've tied these with the 2OJ hooks. These hooks, the reason I've selected these hooks is they will still hit the bass, they will hit the whiting, they will probably, they would be able to hit a cod. It's a good multi-purpose rig. It'll see you through most things, and you can tailor your hooks and your embellishments. If you get to an environment and you've tied this, let's say you've tied some of these and you say, right, I'm going to go fishing with some of these with some 2Os on. So you've tied them with 2Os, you get to the beach and you go, ah, it looks really bassy. I'd prefer to have circle hooks, or it looks quite the opposite, and you'd want to change to a fine wire hook. It looks like it's just going to be flighty bashing session. The reason I use the stop knots is if you wanted to clip that hook off, tie a new one, clip it all down as best you can, and then you can move the stop knots in accordance with how much the line is shortened. You don't have to scrap the rigs. The alternative is to tie some varying hook lengths, put your hook lengths onto, see if I've got some, swivels, beads, links. Your alternative is to get some of these little tiny little snood clips from Gemini. And you can try and tie hook lengths, multiple hook lengths, different hooks, different hook sizes, clip them on and off, and this is a little bit of variation. You can move those stop knots up and down. That's why I use a stop knot underneath and a crimp on top. The crimp on top is not so much needed on the top hook, it is on the bottom hook. You could use a stop knot there if you wanted to. I found that a stop knot on top of there sometimes would start to slip just a bit, and you'd be adjusting it on the beach, on the fly. Not a major problem, just, you know, I'd rather not do that and put a crimp in. But with this rig, like I say, you can change the hooks, you can add flare, you can add bait stops, and it can all be done on the fly on the beach. So it's a good all-round handy rig to have in your tackle box. There's a couple more from my go-to rigs that I want to film. There's the Paternoster with a running lead, and there is a very basic 3-hook flapper, and they are the 4 or 5 rigs that I know and use regularly. Like I say, I have been asked to cover a few other rigs, and I will, but let me get these ones down and onto video first. So until next time, guys, remember to like, share and subscribe. Stay safe, tight lines, and I'll see you later.